Nigeria is no doubt endowed with abundant natural gas resources, which is in energy terms in excess of the nation's proven crude oil reserves. The country holds more than 200 cubic feet proven gas as at this year, and even more than ranking ninth in the world and accounting for about 3% of the world's total natural gas reserves of 6,923 trillion cubic feet. In order to diversify its revenue base and reduce huge wastage of valuable resources, as well as degradation of the environment as a result of flaring, the Nigerian government, through the NNPC, initiated a number of natural gas utilization projects with its joint venture partners, whereby associated gas will be harnessed to achieve these objectives. While a number of gas utilization projects have already been completed, commissioned, and in operations, several other projects are at various stages of execution. In addition, local industries have started converting the use of fuel oil to gas due to the increase in awareness. As an emerging economy, one of the key policy objectives of Nigeria to drive sustainable economic development is the adequate utilization of its natural resources, gas resources in particular, which industry experts say will create more wealth for the nation and diversify the economy. To continue this discussion and other issues concerning gas development in Nigeria, I'll be talking to an energy consultant and analyst, Mr. Charles Majomi. He joins me live via Skype from Abuja. Mr. Majomi, thank you very much for your time, and I apologize for the mix-up there.
That's okay.
Yes. First, how would you react to this move by the government focusing on gas at this time, trying to use, to supplement what we face with regards to non-deregulation of the oil and gas industry, which will obviously make us see an increase in the price of PMS. Now gas is coming in. Do you see this bridging that gap?
Absolutely. Gas, actually, let me just first say that we're more of a gas nation than we are an oil nation. We have over 200 trillion cubic feet of reserves, as you rightfully said earlier, and we must recognize our potential as a gas nation in the context of macroeconomic realities of the current world. As you know very well, oil is fast becoming a thing of the past. Even though we've seen some pickup in the price of oil, it's not something that we can depend on in a sustainable manner in the future. The world is turning towards renewable energy sources, cleaner energy, and gas, being a much cleaner energy than crude oil, has much more marketing potential than crude oil going forward. Liquefied natural gas is still in very, very high demand with markets, especially in the Far East. And as you know, gas has a tremendous economic transformative potential. It has the ability, much more than crude oil, to transform our domestic economy because of the value-added components it possesses. Crude oil is a matter of just taking it out of the ground, putting it in a barrel, and exporting it to markets, whereas gas, to bring it to market, requires a whole value chain of activities, which brings employment to our people, and thereby, I think, adding to our security locally and our prestige internationally. It can't be overlooked. The time for gas is certainly now.
The time for gas is certainly now. I saw NLNG also playing an important role there. Can we look at the NLNG model? Is that what government is really looking at this time? Because that seems to be very profitable if we look at what's been happening to NLNG. It's been a good story.
You know, NLNG was created in the early 90s by a decree. And it has been an extremely good story. It's been able to take Nigeria's gas and find markets for it internationally. I think it's a wonderful story, but LNG is just one particular element of gas. Gas has potentials to extract liquefied petroleum gas, which we use for cooking. It has ethane, which can be used as a feedstock to develop petrochemical value chains, creation of ethylene, which again would provide employment through the development of industrial parks. So it also has the dry elements of our gas can be fed into our power plants to create electricity, which again is a driving factor for industrialization and creation of jobs and the security that I was talking about earlier. So yes, LNG is one element of our gas portfolio, and that is the element that can be exported to deficit markets. But if we're to domesticate our resources and thereby make an economic multiplier impact on our economy, then gas for domestic use should be seen as a priority if we're going to have this gas revolution that we're talking about. So yes, NLNG is one element, but there are several elements to the gas story that we must explore right now. And in fact, I think there are a number of initiatives ongoing to do that.
Let's now look at investors' confidence in all of this. Mr. Majomi, that is really key. And I think their interest needs to be protected, particularly at this time. Some are even saying for the first 5 years, we need to give them tax holidays. We need to just make it so conducive for them to actually help us improve and expand this, the proceeds of the gas industry. How does that come to you? What more do you think government needs to do to encourage investors?
Right. You're absolutely right. I mean, we're living in a world now where there is a paradigm shift in the energy market, in the energy space. Money is being shifted now into the renewable space. Added to that, Nigeria is no longer the only gas nation or the only oil nation in Africa. Vast amounts of sizable discoveries are taking place every day along the East African seaboard, in Angola, in Ghana, Mozambique. So with the coming of new, the development or the discovery of new assets, there's going to be increasing competition among those jurisdictions for international finance and international investment. So we must be mindful of making our fiscal terms for investment extremely competitive. This speaks to the petroleum industry bill that is currently in the National Assembly, and the necessity for that bill to reflect fiscal incentives that are competitive and attractive so that Nigeria can compete and win in the battle for finance and investment. You know, most of these projects, gas projects, are extremely expensive, and there simply isn't the liquidity within this country that will allow for the developments to take place. So we must look to foreign investments, like you said, and for those investments to make this a destination, it must be attractive. You know, money doesn't follow based on sentiment; it follows based on what is attractive to it.
Indeed, money doesn't follow sentiments. I totally agree with you. I was moving towards the angle of the PIB, which you just touched on. In particular, do you see this helping to also look at issues around pricing around gas? Because that pricing issue has also been on for some time, considering what we face in the foreign exchange market.
I think so. I mean, the issue of pricing has always been one that has been contentious when it comes to gas. You know that in the gas subsector, you have gas to power, you have gas for export in the form of LNG, and you have gas to industries, which is, you know, the development of petrochemicals and such. And each category has a different pricing formula. There is need again to align those the pricing distinctions with international best practice, so that we can attract investment into the sector. It's my personal view that since most of the gas that we have currently comes in the form of associated gas, that is gas that's developed alongside crude oil development, almost actually as a byproduct, that we shouldn't be so quick to monetize or to seek value from associated gas. Rather, we should look at gas as an essential feedstock that will drive a value chain of activities where the value can be derived. So I'm all in favor of inexpensive gas to industries in this country and to power. LNG is a slightly different matter, but if you look at our portfolio, about 50% of our gas utilization is going to LNG, 50% is going to domestic uses. So I think we should look very carefully at the domestic uses and make sure that they're completely incentivized. There's one other thing I'd like to say about the petroleum industry bill, since you brought it up, relative to gas, and that is that, in my view, there isn't enough consideration given to gas as a standalone energy resource. We tend to look at the energy industry through the prism of petroleum. In fact, even the name, the Petroleum Industry Bill, suggests that. So I would like to advocate for greater consideration to be given to exactly what you were saying, which is the pricing and the fiscal elements that will enable gas, cost recovery elements for production sharing contract gas that are currently non-existent, to enable investors to be able to develop offshore assets, as well as bespoke consideration to be given to gas from a regulatory perspective. I think once we have those elements in place and we have a very clear and transparent set of laws and regulations to support gas development, that will give teeth to the political proclamations that we're seeing coming from the presidency and Ministry of Petroleum, who have articulated the notion that this is indeed the decade of gas. And I certainly hope it will, but it won't just come from proclaiming that. It will materialize as a consequence of careful consideration given to the regulatory and the fiscal elements that would enable it.
Let's wrap up on this note. I like to still ask again, if you think that it can actually soften the effect of deregulation, which looks like it's inevitable with what we face at the moment. And on the other side, what more should be done by government? What more?
You're asking me, say that again. You blacked out for a second.
Okay, you didn't get the question. I said, do you think that gas can outrightly soften the pressure, all of the negatives that Nigerians will face when there is total removal of subsidy? I mean, full deregulation. Do you see gas?
Absolutely. I think so. I think when you look at, for example, auto gas as a substitute for PMS.
Yes, to PMS.
Certainly, the burden of subsidy on the PMS, on the petroleum industry, continues to cripple our economy. I think it's the cost, the subsidy burden is equal to many multiples of what our healthcare and education budget is. However, if you were to produce auto gas, which again is an element of gas processing, you would be able to produce a cost-effective solution that will take the burden away from having to provide the subsidy from the current regulated industry. I believe that gas is a solution, is an inexpensive solution in the context of a deregulated petroleum market. Yes.
That's a good way. What about our focus on power? Let's look at power now. Many are talking about energy mix in our power sector, looking at what we faced with gas. So if we have this constant supply or improved supply or harnessing the potentials of gas, does that amount to better power supply?
You're asking if the gas to power market, how important the gas to power market is?
Exactly.
Okay. Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, in order to industrialize a modern economy, the common denominator is power. We have suffered perennially from undersupply of power due to factors. Currently, a lot of which was hinged on the non-availability of delivering of power, of gas, and the delivery infrastructure that would be able to bring gas to the power units that we have. Now, there are also a number of issues that have led to the buildup of debt in the industry, etc. I think from a power perspective, a cost-reflective tariff will actually ease the dysfunctionalities in the value chain and will allow for the flow of gas upstream at a good cost down into the value chain so that the end user can benefit. Certainly, it is an area that is the biggest market for gas offtake and cannot be overlooked. Its functionality will drive industrialization. It will lead to increased production of gas upstream, which will enhance our gas production profile. So it is essential that we get the gas to power aspect of our economy right. But in addition, gas to petrochemicals, we must focus on creating industrial parks that will be able to allow us to process our gas into the various different elements that will drive our economy through creation of plastic parks, petrochemicals that we can export, etc., etc. So yes, gas to power is extremely important, but let's not also overlook all the other elements of gas, all the other elements that could be derived from robust supply of gas to the domestic economy.
All right there, Mr. Charles Majomi, thank you so very much for your time. I appreciate this. It's always good to have you on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right there. Mr. Charles Majomi is an energy analyst and, of course, also a consultant in that industry, breaking this down for us to see what gas development means for Nigeria. But very